Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Biome Podcast, a space for nurturing the ecosystem of business, body, and living. What would it be like if you gave your body a leadership role in your business and chose greater happiness every day? These are the conditions that create a healthy biome and a thriving business. I'm your host, Heather Nichols, and I'm so happy you're here. Hello, everybody. Happy New Year, and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Biome Podcast. Today is January 8th, 2025, and I took a little break over the holidays, which I don't actually normally do. I usually like to be really, stay very involved with what I'm creating, and I didn't disappear or anything, but I just took a break from podcasting and recording videos and was actually really enjoying the silence and the space of this time of year. And I'm so happy I did it. It was really nurturing and super nourishing. And I am so excited for what is available now and what we can all be creating this year and beyond. And of course, this time of year, bodies are kind of a hot topic for people. And bodies are always a hot topic for me. You might have noticed that if you listen to my podcast. I love my body. I love bodies. I love working with bodies and playing with bodies and creating with bodies and helping people to know that creating their body and changing their body is way easier than they think, and also easier and more joyful, and also just really different. What our bodies require is so different than what we think they require. And since this time of year is one where people tend to kind of gear up to reach some body goals, I thought it would be cool to just chat a little bit here about that. And I also have some upcoming body stuff that I'm offering. So, I've done a lot of podcasts about fascia and Bowspring movement and, just a lot of conversations already on this topic, I guess I'll say, and you can refer back to the archives and find those. But one of the things that I'm so present with is really this beautiful connection between our neurological vitality, neurological health, let's call it like the regulation of our nervous systems, and the health of our fascia and the health of our structure and our postural alignment and the way that our bodies basically organize themselves. And I've talked about this before, but sort of putting it into a different, a new way of talking about this now. The fascia of our body, if you're not familiar with fascia is this very thin, extremely strong membranous tissue. It's really connective tissue that wraps everything in our bodies. It wraps our muscles, it wraps our bones, it wraps our organs, and it also wraps our nerves and like neural pathways and nerve endings. And it insulates, it protects with the nerves. It actually insulates and protects and allows information to travel with a greater ease and fluidity and depending on how healthy it is. So fascia can be hard, steel-like. It can have like chunks of what I call adhesions, like gummed up, kind of concentrated in places where it shouldn't be. And then it can be viscous and almost gel-like in its strength and its integrity. And it's such an incredible part of the body, such an incredible tissue, because it's hard to kind of even fathom that something that is gel-like could be so strong. Fascia is so strong, and it can hold like thousands of pounds of pressure. And this is part of why it can be a little tricky to change the fascia, and therefore change like our structure and our posture and our strength. And at the same time, it can be easy if you know how to change it. So when fascia is hardened and steel-like and adhesed and basically not healthy, it doesn't have that capacity to facilitate neural pathways, like allow the nervous system to function optimally. It also inhibits the movement of our muscles. It inhibits, a lot of times it will hold our structure in place in a way that is not actually healthy. So the arrangement of our bones and even our organs and different muscle groups can be out of whack. Muscles can be pulled away from the bone, which actually is one of the things that creates pain in the body. Organs can be displaced, and bones even sit in relationship to other bones in a way that is disharmonious. And hard steel-like adhesed fascia will hold it there, will hold those parts of the body in place. So there's not a lot of possibility. Like the bones can't move into a happier place. The muscles can't hug up against the bone, which is what makes muscles really happy and gets us out of pain and helps us to feel actually like grounded and like more connected to ourselves. And our posture gets out of whack and difficult to change. Even things like curvatures in the spine, hip dysplasia, things like that, that can actually all be changed if you change the fascia. But it's not just something where you can like stretch and change the fascia. So stretching is actually not really something, well, it's not at all something that I do anymore. Once I started doing Bowspring movement, I stopped stretching because stretching is a passive action where the muscles are relatively passive. And anytime you stretch, you give a muscle and the corresponding fascia, you give it like a temporary expansion, relief, whatever, but you're not really changing anything. So people value stretching. I don't value stretching at all. Like I literally never do it. I would rather do engaged movement that will change the fascia and elongate and lengthen and strengthen the tissue, the muscles that need to be lengthened and strengthened, and do it in such a way that where the postural alignment is like our postural alignment into an open, curvy posture, which is how we were meant to be, is actually facilitated. And we do that. Bowspring movement is one of the ways that one of my main tools for changing my body, basically, and changing my fascia. And so with Bowspring, we actually there's three kind of things that we talk about when we're doing, well, there's a lot of things in Bowspring, but we establish, we engage, and then we expand with Bowspring. So what do I mean by that? Well, with the practice of Bowspring, the first thing you want to do is establish the correct postural alignment, which for most of us is not an automatic. And most of us don't even know what that is. Like I have been working with bodies for decades. I've taught movement for decades. I've been a somatic therapist. I've done a lot of body work, a lot of energetic work. I didn't actually know what correct posture was until I started playing with Bowspring and experiencing it in my own body. Because correct posture is actually curvy. We have curves in our spine. We have a bowed neck and a bowed belly. The back of the rib cage is very full. The pelvis is a little bit tilted so that the low back can go into its natural curve. The belly is elongated. There's a fullness in the rib cage, and there's actually a directionality of how our bones move, like the arms and the bones of the arms and the legs, that corresponds to the tissue that allows the back of our body to get very strong as it is intended to be, the front of our body to be open into a different kind of strength, and our whole body to have a sense of what we call tensegrity. So there's a like the fascia and the muscles, the intrinsic muscles and the bigger ones as well, get strengthened into this open alignment, open posture that you then start to hold naturally, because there's all these little tiny muscles like between your ribs and in between your bones, and the what the fascia is doing to hold space between the bones, things like that gets strengthened into this openness. And the fascia in that when we move in that way and when we strengthen in that way, the fascia actually becomes, it changes the integrity of the fascia, the density of the fascia, the texture of the fascia changes. It becomes lubricated, it becomes more gel-like and strong in its viscosity, strong in its gel-like quality, which is amazing, like so amazing. It's one of the most unique parts of, I would say, for me, I'm just so into fascia, and it is one of the probably the most unique aspect of our bodies from a structural point of view. And so we need to establish a correct posture before you go to engaging your muscles. And we do that by, there's in Bowspring, there's all these very different, kind of weird, wonderful, unique postures. They might look a little bit like yoga, like they take some of their kind of cues from yoga, but with the curves, getting into the curves of your spine, allowing your armpits to be hollow, allowing your groins to be hollow, and the backs of your knees and the insides of your elbows, the palms of your hands and the soles of your feet. Those are all parts of our bodies that we want to hollow so that the bones go where they need to go. So we get into a specific alignment and establish the bones in as much as we can in that moment, this postural integrity that is going to be different than what we normally do. And one of the things I've noticed, because I have a lot of asymmetry in my own body, is that as when I practice Bowspring, I feel off. Like I don't feel symmetrical, because when we have asymmetry, like I've had this leg length imbalance where my left leg is a little longer than my right leg, but it's not a bone thing. It's a connective tissue thing. So it can be changed. And then a rotation in my pelvis, which is also based on the leg length. And there's all these different pieces of that. So when I am standing kind of like normal with my compensatory patterns that I've developed to accommodate this disharmony in my body that's been there for so long, and the asymmetry, it feels symmetrical to my brain, but it isn't. So when I put myself into a more symmetrical alignment, one side of the body is going to be working in a slightly different way. It's going to be positioned a little bit different. It's going to feel really weird. Weird is good. Weird is good with Bowspring, and also with Access Consciousness. Weird is just good. I'm a big fan of weird. So establishing the bones into this alignment, and then we start to engage the muscle. So once the bones are established, then we can start to engage the muscle in a very deliberate way with a directionality. So we bring a lot of information and practices and movements about the directionality of our tissue into Bowspring that allows us to begin to start to perceive how, like my thighs, when I move my thighs, I want to rotate them in. I want to actually spin my inner thighs back and wide and up into my butt. And then our butt gets like way stronger. And talk about a Brazilian butt lift. You get a Bowspring butt lift, which is better because it's your muscles. And it will increase the integrity of your entire body. So you get into, you learn the directionality of how the tissue moves in its healthy state, and you engage it in that way. And sometimes it's just with intention. Like it took me, things are still coming online for me. I don't know, I guess 2 years into practicing Bowspring, things are still coming online for me with how exactly to move in such a way that I can get the directionality of the engagement of my muscles. And when we get that, then the bones actually start to settle where they need to be. For instance, when you do spin the thigh in and back and up and bit back and wide, and then mound the glutes back into the sacrum, there's a lot of learning to do that. It requires some information and practice, and guidance. It's not something you can just do unless you already have that in your body, and then you can do it. But most of us lose that over time. And so once we start to do that, then for that example, like the top of the femur starts to move back in our hip joint. It starts to go wider in our hip joint, and it starts to spin in this inward direction. And that is where, if you've got the top of your femur bone going back, going wide, and spinning in, you are going to have healthy hips. Your hips will not hurt. You will not have hip problems. And this is one of the big things that got me to do Bowspring, was something going on in my right hip from ice skating and from a life of all kinds of things, and unawareness of how to move my body, really. And so I'm learning how to use my own muscle to move the top of my femur where it belongs in my hip joint, and widen my whole right pelvic floor and hip. So there's a lot of pelvic floor health that gets created from the Bowspring practice. And in doing so, like getting so strong in my greatest posture. And there's always more too, but like really strengthening my body to where it wants to be, not where I think it needs to be. And for instance, with ice skating, all kinds of different sports and activities, they tend to, like, we use our bodies in this particular way, but if we don't have the education of how to move the muscles and how to move the bones and where the bones need to be, then we can very often move them in a way that's counter to that. So like with ice skating, I learned to use my hip, push my hip forward to change where my blades are on the ice. And I took my femur really far forward into my hip joint, which caused me a lot of hip pain. The groins get flat. You want your groins to be hollow and your femur to be back and wide and rotated. So that's a lot of information, but just for those of you that are body geeks out there, kind of fun stuff to play with. And when you learn to engage, so you establish your body into this posture, you engage the muscles, and then you expand. So there's a pulsation, there's a movement to it. This is where the magic of changing our fascia comes in, because the fascia is the muscles, the bones, the fascia, the corresponding fascia are all where they need to be. And then we engage the muscles. And then we bring a pulsation or some sort of a movement that creates expansion into that postural new alignment that is our natural alignment. And any sort of hardened, steel-like, adhesed, gummed up fascia will just let go and start to become, it gets like reminded of its job and its way of being, and how it can function. And then it just gets to, it changes really quite fast. It's kind of remarkable. And then we do it over time. We do it again and again. And then we bring these movements into our life. And And, we're walking, we're driving, all these things, and we're able to access this different way of moving, different way of being, bringing our breath into it. And, and this goes for the whole body, like people that have neck issues, a lot of times there's a collapsing of the rib cage, like rolling the shoulders in. I mean, how many people spend their lives like this, typing, texting? Your neck wants to bow this way. It wants to bow forward. Your shoulders, we want to have like an openness in our chest and a rotation open in the shoulders with a corresponding fullness in the back of the heart and the back of the ribs. You got to learn how to do that and expand your strength to hold that into its tensegrity, the tensile integrity of an open, strong posture. And that translates into confidence and presence. And there's a deep joy of just having the sensations of our body that comes with that. That's just amazing. It's with you all the time. And the piece I kind of took a little side tour there, because what I wanted to talk about in the beginning is this piece about the neurological health. And so just described some of the dynamics of how Bowspring works and how we can rearrange our body, rearrange our bones, and have them actually live there, stay there, continue to get even stronger there. And that's a lifelong thing. You can do that for the rest of your life. Now, as we change the fascia and it becomes more viscous, more gel-like, and stronger at the same time, which is ironic, that as it's gel-like and viscous, it's stronger than when it is steel-like and hard, in a healthy way. It stops suffocating the tissue. It stops suffocating the nervous system. Because when your nervous system is compromised, which is true for most people on the planet, most people have some sort of like constant level of traumatic activation in their bodies. And I was a somatic psychotherapist for many years. I did a lot of work with trauma and healing trauma and moving trauma through the nervous system and allowing people to have neurological release of traumatic patterns that would really be created through the body, with the body, allow our bodies to have more ease, and then also allow us to have more ease in our lives. And so I really got to see this, how bodies know how to unwind trauma neurologically at a neurological level. And bodies have so much information about how to unwind trauma. And as they do, the nervous system becomes so much more adaptable, healthy, responsive. And in that adaptability and that neurological health and the neuroplasticity, let's say, there is a way that because the thing that really goes missing when we have a lot of traumatic patterns, traumatic activation, neurological hyperactivation, is we don't get to relax. We lose our capacity to deeply, truly relax at a neurological level. The parasympathetic nervous system that is responsible for rest, relaxation. We lose our parasympathetic strength and capacities when our nervous system is constantly on high alert. I'm going to run out of money. I'm going to lose my loved ones. I might die. There might be another pandemic. There might be a disaster. All these things, right? The constant barrage of the messaging of the world, social media, all this stuff that's part of our world these days, that is so unnecessary and really not true for us as infinite beings, which is, if you're interested in that conversation, that's a universe that is just so beautiful that I think goes really beautifully with this one. That is more of an access consciousness conversation. But we start to deeply, when you heal the fascia, you heal the nervous system, and your capacity to relax and chill out and receive and have ease. It just grows and grows and grows and grows. And we can approach that from a psychological point of view. We can approach it from an energetic point of view. With Access Consciousness, there's a lot of beautiful body work that we do. There's abuse hold, energetic process. There's the access bars, body processes. There's energetic SE for short, energetic synthesis of structural embodiment, which is a energetic modality that works also with the fascia and with the molecules of the body that like allow us to let go of a lot of those energetic patterns that are not true for us and that keep us in this fight or flight response. And then the Bowspring, as we change the fascia, we strengthen into a new postural, energetic, structural reality with Bowspring. The whole fascial system and network of fascia changes, and the nerve impulses, like our nerve impulses can move. There, it is like the definition of neuroplasticity in a way, because if you have steel-like fascia wrapping the nerve endings, it's going to hold in place all of these neurological patterns in our bodies that do not serve us. When you support the fascia and changing and becoming as brilliant as it can be, as a conveyor of information and a conductor of electrical impulses and all these beautiful things that it does, and also like it has this incredible memory and like there's so much awareness and like memory of our history in a good way, like as beings, as creatures on this planet. Like there's so much to it. We start to access all of that when we start to change it from a physical, structural level. And the neurological health that we get to enjoy just increases. I've gone through a lot of deep neurological healing with the Bowspring practice, specifically changing my fascia in such a way that I've never been able to get to with all the other modalities that I've done. Now, the other modalities that I've done are freaking amazing, and I am so grateful, and I use them every day. I use a lot of things every single day. So I'm not making Bowspring the answer or better than anything else. It did, however, for me, add to the power of what I was already doing by allowing me to move my body in a very powerful way that was deeply healing, strengthening, reorganizing, and enlivening in a way that I've never. And I've been a movement person my whole life. I've been dancing since I was 2. I was a diver. I was a cheerleader. I was a gymnast, ballet dancing. And then I taught dance as an adult and figure skater, all these different things. There's never been a movement practice that has been this healing for my body that I've found. And I've had moments of doing Bowspring where my fascia is unwinding so powerfully that I can feel my whole nervous system releasing and changing and becoming greater and healthier. And sometimes there's a lot of release that comes with it. Sometimes there will be tears or just like a sense of let go or, a sense of just needing to nurture my body. But the cool thing is that it gets to so many things. And to go back to the beginning, when I was talking about, this time of year and changing our bodies and all this stuff, and people go to like, I'm going to diet and I'm going to exercise. And that for most of us is just so boring. I have no desire to really talk about that because it's not really that doesn't really create a whole lot with our bodies. Changing our fascia, changing our structure, and therefore changing our energetic reality in our bodies and with our bodies allows our bodies to have this level of peace and ease and integrity, tensegrity, and alignment and harmony and presence and potency that then, if you want to lose weight or something like that, or just become stronger, like definitely Bowspring will get you. I mean, I've never been so strong in so many ways, and I'm just beginning with it. But it will, you reorganize your body at the level of the fascia and your structure and your postural integrity. Your whole world reorganizes. And then, if you want to lose weight, it will just happen. Like a lot of times that's just the body's like, oh, thank you so much. Now I can relax. Now I'm not running on cortisol and all of those stress hormones and all of that neurological activation that creates so much havoc for us. And you know what? It's our birthright. I mean, that's what it boils down to for me, is peace in our bodies, peace on this planet, like true peace, not the idea of peace or the construct of peace, but true peace is, it's our birthright, and everything in the world is basically organized to keep us from that. And I say, let's have it. Let's have it. Let's do it. Let's be it. Let's harness the power of our beautiful bodies, our incredible fascia, our dynamic, healthy, alive nervous systems, the power of open, aligned, harmonious posture, and the power of our presence and like a new energetic reality to create something very different, not just with our bodies, but in our lives. So that's my invitation to you. And this day's podcast. And I'm going to be doing an introduction to Bowspring on Monday, January, I think it's the 14th, 13th, 14th. It's on my website, heathernichols.com, on the events page. And then I'm also going to be doing a 4-month Fascia Lab immersion that is, I am so excited about it. And it's going to be a lot of Bowspring, some, Bowspring practices. It's a weekly call there's going to be 16 calls over 4 months, and Zoom, calls with video. So I can teach Bowspring and watch you do Bowspring and give you feedback, give you a lot of information about Bowspring alignment, and then also about the fascia. It's not just Bowspring, it's going to be a lot of Bowspring, and there's going to be a lot of extra Bowspring videos and practices you can do on your own. But information about neurological health, the fascia, how to change your fascia, also with some self body work and self fascia care tools that I use, and just a big, beautiful exploration of fascia health and through movement and the power of becoming strong, glorious, viscous, gel-like, and something very different. So you're invited. The Bowspring intro is included in the Fascia Lab, or you can just take the intro and see if you want to keep going. And both of those are on heathernichols.com/events, I believe it is. Just go to my events page. Thanks, everybody. Bye for now. Thank you for joining me for the Entrepreneurial Biome podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. For more resources, check out my website at heathernichols.com and my social media channels as well. Have a beautiful day, and remember that your business thrives when you do.